Hello, everybody, and welcome to NighTalks, the new podcast featuring Nightwalk, yours truly. And in this episode, we have guest Royal Blue.
Wow, thanks for having me
yourself.
on your special first episode, Nightwalk. I'm really flattered.
Oh my God,
honored.
we're climbing the world right now. We're just making it places. If you don't have a podcast, who are you, really? That is the question, to be or to podcast.
Sure.
Okay, so I figured we could start out with something, just a little fun, little ditty. I was just going to ask you about your experience listening to Muse, and then we're going to get into the meat of the podcast, which is going to be about being a creator, being an artist, being an actor, a model, a person of many talents, and the issues and joys that come along with that. So first order of business is, what is your favorite Muse song?
I still think it's Panic Station. I've been listening to a lot more Muse recently, but Panic Station is just, it's so funky fresh. And, you know, if anyone knows anything about me, it's just that I just really dig the funky fresh beats.
Yeah, you love those bass lines.
Yeah, funky bass lines all the way.
Yes, so as a new Muse fan, it's probably shocking when you listen to some of their older stuff at times. Your reaction to Microcuts was priceless, by the way, and it's a classic, and it will go down in the history books. Are there any other songs after listening to Microcuts that just shocked you at how spazzy and crazy they were?
I don't know so much about, like, shocking me with how spazzy and crazy. I was listening to more of their older, like, I was listening to Showbiz album, and more of, like, the shock or anything. It was enjoyment. I actually liked it more than I thought I would. I listened to Philip for the first time, and I actually liked that one. And that one reminded me of you.
Muse and I think rock generally, we're going to talk about Radiohead in a second too, but rock generally, I think, can have an acquired taste to it where, you know, the first couple times you listen to songs by bands like Muse, you might be thrown off, like past their popular stuff. Obviously, listen to Uprising, it's not like hard to get into, but, you know, listening to some of their older stuff might be shocking to some viewers and listeners who haven't really been exposed to that kind of stuff. But once you get a taste for it, I think it becomes a lot more palatable.
Yeah, and can I also say that, like, I'm kind of afraid of coming off as generic, but one of the songs by them that I actually have come to enjoy the most is actually Supermassive Black Hole. Because
that's in my top 10 probably.
Yeah, it's got the cool bass, and I was afraid that,
as we just said, the funky fresh beats.
The funky fresh beats and the rock and bass, but it's like I really turn up to that in the car when I'm driving, and like I'm afraid of saying something like that and people being like, "Oh, you're so generic. It's one of the popular songs that everybody knows." But it's a good song. There's a reason that it's popular. It's not just because of Twilight.
Well, people say that to me because I say I love songs like Madness. But
I like Madness too, you know? Sue me.
Yeah, sue me. Come at me, bros.
Don't actually sue me, I'm broke. Please.
I just work here. So the little other thing I wanted to mention before we get into the meat of the meat and potatoes of the cast was just you're going to be listening to Radiohead upcoming shortly, because you said that you were interested into potentially listening to OK Computer through.
Yeah, I want to know what people are talking about, and everyone is always like, listen to Radiohead, and I'm like, you know, maybe I should. I'm gonna give him a little listen.
I would have you react to it live on your channel, but the problem is they have like super strict copyright on all their songs. You pretty much can only do it if it's live versions, or if you cut it up like crazy. I know you're not a fan of either of those, so
that's a good point.
So was part of that Daniel Ferry? Was he pushing you to listen to it? Because I know he has the big, you know, I don't know if it's a vinyl or if it's a poster.
His big poster. I thought it was a vinyl, but I think it's a poster.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think it wasn't so much of Danny, because whenever he and I talk, we usually talk more about like the Killers or Coldplay or Muse. I don't think he's ever really mentioned Radiohead to me, but him having the giant poster in his room. Is he really?
Yeah.
I mean,
one of his favorite bands.
He's got the big poster, but I mean, I guess because he and I always stick to the stuff that we both know, and since he and I both love the Killers and Coldplay, that's what we talk about a lot. So like, we'll FaceTime and talk about like Ghost Stories, which it's my favorite Coldplay album. I think it's his favorite Coldplay album too.
So speaking of Daniel Ferry, we are planning to actually hopefully collab with him again, and I know a lot of you loved that collaboration, and we actually loved having it too. Just being around him, he's such a fun guy. Huge shout out to Daniel.
He's great.
It was so fun visiting him, and I really hope that he comes and visits me at some point, because we flew out there. He's got to return the favor, huh?
We're working on it. Maybe we're talking. We've been in cahoots.
We're hooting and hollering.
We've been talking. He's been so busy with his job and everything.
Yeah, he has a crazy schedule. You guys don't even want to know. It's pretty horrible.
But that should be getting better soon. So hopefully he should be able to come visit at some point. I feel like I have to work as his secretary sometimes. Because I always have to relay messages. I'm like, hey, Nightwalk, this is what Danny says. And then every
we're
time
both bad at communicating.
I'll call him or FaceTime him, and he's like, send my regards to Nightwalk, and I'm like, that's exactly what he says. It's literally, he goes, send my regards to Nightwalk, and I'm like, sure.
He has my number.
I don't know if he knows that.
I don't talk to him either, though. Like, it's both of us. We're just bad at communicating.
You both talk to me and tell me to tell, you're like, tell Danny this, and then Danny's like, tell Dakota this, and I'm like, guys, please, you have each other's numbers.
Okay, so I figured, because we're both, I don't want to say experts necessarily, but we're both members of the entertainment field, I figured it'd be interesting to ask you some questions about that. So the first one, which is kind of the thickest question, if you will, the dummy thick of the day, was, okay, so because the life of an artist is so open-ended, like, we don't really have any set paths. If you become an accountant or something, you know exactly what job you're supposed to take, what hours you're going to have, what path you're going down, and what your career is going to look like. The problem with an artist is you pick musician. That could mean writing for people. That could mean becoming a YouTuber. That could mean touring with a band. It could mean so many different things. And even within musicianship, there's more corporate routes, like writing jingles for companies, or there's more individual routes where you just take your own path and you just try your best. So, because the life of an artist is so open-ended like that, do you ever struggle finding a direction to take and stick with?
Yeah, definitely. Because you're exactly right. It is very open-ended, and I've come to learn that in my last couple years in college, since I am now like 13 or 12 weeks away from having a bachelor's degree in entertainment. I have learned a lot of different things about the industry and just directions, because they train us in everything. So, I've been trained in everything from singing classes to stage combat to comedy to improv and casting and all these things. And it's definitely really hard to just pick one.
It's gotta be overwhelming.
Yeah, because it's like, for me, I've always kind of known that I have wanted to be an actor. And I lean a little bit more towards dramatic acting than comedic, because dramatic acting is a lot easier than comedic acting. But even then, there's so many options that you have in it. It's like, what subgenre of drama do you want to be in? It's like, do you want dramedies or just romance, combat? Like, for me, I was able to hone it down and decide that I wanted to do like action films and a lot of genre blending things. But it took years. It took years of thought and prayer and practice for me to realize what I was passionate about. So 100% the struggle bus is at the station.
So do you recommend just trying everything and seeing what you like?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really great way to find a passion. Join an improv team or take a voice acting class, and soon enough you're going to find something that you like more than others. And for me, that was how I got into combat. I was doing that exact thing. I was taking a lot of different classes, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, trying everything. And then when I took my first combat class, I was like, this is actually really cool. So then I took my second combat class and got my certifications. And even though it was grueling, hard work, it was so worth it. And I loved every moment of it. And then that was kind of where my passion came in. So I think arguably that's the only way to find passion, is to try everything.
Right, because the problem is people think that with more choices comes more freedom. And that is true technically. The problem comes where you get so overwhelmed with those amount of choices that it almost becomes paralyzing.
Yeah, that's actually exactly correct. What you need to do is, try all these things and find what matters to you. But then once you find the thing that you're passionate about, you need to put everything else aside. You cannot waste your time with like other things, because
what is the quote from Ron Swanson? He says, never half-ass two things.
Yeah, never half-ass two things. Whole ass one thing. Because it's exactly that, where, if you're focused on, like, let's say you're trying to be an actor, but you also want to be a DJ, and then you also want to be a singer. You can't focus, you will stretch yourself too thin. So if you're, in the middle of auditioning for a bunch of gigs and stuff, and then you get the chance to work on a song with somebody, if you start working on that song, then you're no longer working on acting. And so then you're neglecting the thing that maybe you were the most passionate about. So you have to kind of put your blinders on and just focus on the thing that matters most.
I also think you really need to hone your skills in the specific craft that you're going to focus on. And the beauty of something like YouTube is that there is no barrier to entry. Anybody can do it. And that's the beauty that I kind of discovered, was like I was kind of paralyzed with creativity because I was like, I have no idea what to do. So I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to make a video on how to write a song like My Chemical Romance. And because I thought that kind of put together some of my different skills, because, I have a major in English, and I have some experience with songwriting, and I think I do relatively well on cameras. So I thought it put together a few of my different skills, and I just went with it. And I didn't let like all the worries of, someone might not like it or all this like stop me. Like, you have to just do it anyways. That's really like I think the moral of the story is, you don't let anything stop you. Just do something. Like, you have to take action in some regard, in any direction. It could be the wrong direction. The thing is, you'll learn that it's the wrong direction shortly after trying it. So it's better to at least do something than to be stuck in a position where you're not really making any effort as a creative person. And I know a lot of you that watch my channel are people that write yourselves or are inspired by creative people. And this is probably very interesting for you to hear. And I think that you can take this advice to any corner of your life, but I think it really specifically applies to creative people.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've always said complacency is the death of the dreamer. That's like my favorite quote, and I don't know if I got it from somewhere because I haven't seen it anywhere, but it's really true, where when you're stuck...
We'll just say you're a philosopher. It's just
I'm a philosopher. I'm a philosophist. And
I'm a philosophizer.
Philosophizer, that's the word. But when you're stuck in this habit of like not going anywhere, that's when all of your dreams are just gonna die, because then you're just stuck living the life that you have, and you're never going to move forward in any directions. So you need to want that for yourself. You need to want a better life. You know, if you want to lose weight, you can't just be like, oh, I want to lose weight, and then you go eat an entire cake in one sitting at myself. But what you have to do is, like, you need to actually start making changes, you know? So it's like that can even be applied outside of the entertainment industry, like the example I just gave, or even just in self-betterment. That's something you can use, is just never be complacent with things that you want to change.
And the beauty, again, with something like YouTube or other independently creative outlets is the non-committal aspects. You don't have to commit your entire life to something. You can just try it. Just try it. Like, you don't have to commit a 4-year degree. You don't have to commit any of that. All you got to do is sit in front of a camera and make a video. If you want to be creative on YouTube. It doesn't take that much time. It doesn't take that much effort. But to just do one video, just try it. Just try different things. Maybe YouTube's not your thing. I'm just saying this as an example. But just try something. And if you don't like it, you can always take a step back. But if you have any inkling of a desire to do something like that, I recommend you guys to wholeheartedly move forward in that direction and just find out if you're missing out on something that might be very important to your future.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, quite frankly.
Alrighty, so now we are going to move on to the next question.
Ooh.
Pull up my noties. Okay, so with all of that in mind, this is another important question for creative people. How do you deal with burnout when you are in something that you think you are very passionate about, you think that's very important to you, and that you know is something that you want to pursue long term? However, you have gotten extremely exhausted with the work you've been having to do in that field, and you feel burnt out. What do you do? Do you have anything you specifically do?
Yeah, for me personally, you step back for a moment and you take a breath, and maybe you go visit your family if you can. If you can't, just make some tea and read a book. Just take yourself out of the world for a little bit, because you can really easily wear yourself thin, and that's what happens with burnout. It's not that you're not passionate anymore, it's just that you've been working yourself too hard. What you need to do is you need to take a nice bubble bath with some bath salts and read a book, have a glass of wine or something, just unwind, go to bed early. And that's just a one day kind of thing. That'll help you
You're
feel
saying
better.
Take a mental health day, basically.
Yeah,
Just take
yeah.
a day off
do
for
what
yourself.
do what helps you recover mentally, as long as it's a safe thing. Don't be like, oh, I need a break, I'm gonna go eat an entire cake, me at myself. How many times
That's your second time bringing up eating an entire cake. I think we know what's on your brain right now.
But yeah, do something healthy that helps you. Go on a walk, get some fresh air. Be very kind to yourself.
Was that
be
too toxic?
Gentle. Just be kind to yourself. That's the biggest thing I can say, is that you're working so hard, and that's okay. That's great. It's exciting. You're doing something you're passionate about, but don't let it bother you. Don't let it run you into the ground. And if you feel that it is running you into the ground, you need to just step back a little bit and just take some time.
Right. So a couple things that I wanted to bring up about this is that sometimes people have this obsession with just pushing forwards even when they know something's wrong. Now, my issue with that is that the quality of your work is going to suffer extremely harshly if you're pushing yourself past the point of you actually being able to handle it. So an example I can think of is, I'm not sure what the exact number is, but I've heard some researchers say stuff like the maximum amount of time a human brain can focus on one thing without a second of break is 30 minutes, something around that time period. Right. So if you're studying for a test and you're sitting there for 4 hours straight trying to study, you are not studying for 4 hours straight. you're maybe getting 30 minutes of solid study time in, and then the rest you start checking your phone, your mind starts wandering, you start like just daydreaming. You can't focus consistently. So what you need to do is set aside a certain amount of time to work on something, a certain amount of time to recover, and then a certain amount of time to get back into it. And you can keep that going as long as you need to, but you cannot consistently push yourself. And I think that can be expanded to the duration of your life. If you are trying to force yourself to work 6 days a week, maybe even 7 days a week with 12 to 13 hour days, being a creative person, your work will suffer. And I think you need to make sure you take moments of respite so that your work does not suffer and you can keep your quality up.
Hang on. I need to take a really quick break because it is about to start pouring rain and I need to go bring some things inside. Like my moped battery that is outside right now. So
no problem.
I'll be back. I'm just gonna leave everything running. I'll be right back.
Okay.
It is about to start pouring.
Okay, squad. I will continue this for us.
Everything's about to die.
Okay. Whoa, that's heavily dramatic. So another thing I wanted to mention is something that bands on tour and on album cycles do. So for example, we take a band that we all know and love, Muse. What they typically do is they spend a year writing, producing, recording, editing, mixing an album, and then potentially even marketing it, going on talk shows, the whole 9 yards. Spend an entire year doing that. And of course, throughout that year, they're not like refusing to take days off, but we're just saying they have a consistent work schedule for about a year doing that. Then they spend about a year touring the entire world, playing that album live. At the end of that year, at the end of that second year, do you think that they go back and play, and try to write another album? No! They take a year off for themselves because creative things are much more draining on everything in a human than doing something that's consistently a more structured job. Because being creative requires constant brainstorming and attentiveness in a way that some other jobs don't. And that's not putting anything else down. It's just, as somebody who's worked in different fields and experienced different things and heard from different people, especially in the creative field, doing 8 hours of something creative is way more draining than doing 8 hours of something that is not creative. So to create a 9-to-5 schedule for yourself as a creative person, I don't think that's exactly fair. Sometimes as a YouTuber, working on something once a day is too much, even if it's just a couple hours a day. And I realize that I just can't handle it and I need to take a break because my work's gonna suffer and I'm not gonna be able to handle this long term. So I think that's really important for people to recognize, is that you have to be kind to yourself while you're pursuing your passions.
I'm coming. Okay, I'm here.
And she's returned.
I hope you were just like singing jingles the whole time.
I talked a little bit about album cycles.
The weather outside is frightful, but this candle is sure delightful. I'm trying to fix my moped, so I had the battery charging outside, and I also had like the inside, like the panel was taken off of the moped, so all the like cords were exposed. I was like, I need to go put that back. Oh God.
That's what we call unfortunate timing, my friends.
Yep, that's what we call it. Rains at 8 p.m. every day in Georgia.
Georgia.
Anyways.
Okay, something else that I wanted to ask you about was, what are some of your major inspirations as a creative person?
Are we talking like inspirations that are like why I went into the industry, or inspirations as in like people I look up to?
You know, it really encompasses all of that. So you can talk about whoever floats your boat, wets your whistle, sets your jib a-sailing.
Okay, well, Exhibit A, why I went into the industry, like what inspired me to go... Oh, I just knocked over a bottle of seltzer. What inspired me to go into the industry was really making a difference in people's lives. the way that films made a difference in my life growing up. You know, I've always loved movies. I loved watching TV, but like, I was always fascinated by it. I loved seeing what people could do, and I loved seeing, you know, the CGI and the choreography, the fighting, and all of that. I was just so fascinated by it. But then on top of that, a lot of people who, like a lot of actors and stuff, they make a difference in people's lives on that end, in which, like, you know, little girls can watch these films and be like, I want to be like them. So I guess the biggest thing is that I wanted to kind of repay the favor, but then also, like, there's some people who use their status as an individual that people look up to spread important messages, and that segues into people I look up to. Like, I am really, really inspired by Chris Pratt, because he is one of the only actors that I know that really is open about his faith. And even though he received a lot of negative attention from people for it, I was really inspired as another actor of Christian faith to see someone who was very successful in the industry risking losing a bunch of fans for his religion, and him not being afraid to do that. Because there is a lot of common misconceptions about religion and Christianity. You know, like, there's a lot of people will just assume the worst about him. And it was really inspiring for me to see that he didn't really care about that. What mattered more was, like, openly admitting his faith. So I was inspired on a more, like, deeper spiritual level by him, but I'm also really inspired by young actors that are, like, my age, like Natalia Dyer, who is, when she was cast in Stranger Things, she was 20, so she was my age, and it was so cool to see, like, someone my age being in something that blew up, because she's the kind of person that I wanted to be. You know, like, I want to be like her. I want to be a young, hardworking, successful individual.
And this is Nancy from Stranger Things, if
yes.
anyone is unaware.
Yeah, if you don't know Natalia Dyer, she's Nancy from Stranger Things, and I disappoint her every day because her biggest pet peeve is people eating bagels, like, by themselves, like, with no cream cheese or butter. It's a really weird...
Oh, I thought you meant, like, by yourself as in, like, alone.
Like, alone. Like... It's a weird, it's a random pet peeve, but she said it on an interview, and she was like, I don't know why, but it really annoys me when people eat bagels, like, without butter or cream cheese or anything. Like I do that. I did it today. I do it, like, every day.
How dare you?
I just
honestly, you pathetic
I bring
human
an entire
debris.
bagel with me to class. I have a Ziploc bag and I put a bagel in it, and then I just take the bagel out of the bag and I just start eating it. So every day I let her down, and I'm sorry,
it's
Natalia.
It's too dry, Shannon. It's too dry.
It's a blueberry bagel. It's good.
Okay, fine. Then there's an excuse there. At least there's something filling the bagel. It's not a plain bagel.
Sorry, I didn't mean to segue into bagel talk.
No, bagel talk is crucial. It's going to become a segment.
Please make it a segment. Bagel talk.
Bagel talk.
I really want that now. You bring me in every episode just for bagel talk. Tell us about your bagel today, Blue.
Which bagel did you have today?
Well, today was an everything bagel.
How would you rate your bagel? Reaction.
My bagel today was underwhelming. It was not a super great bagel, because I'm kind of eating them at this point because they need to be eaten. They're about to go bad. So it was a little stale, but, you know, it was blueberry.
Okay, well, that's very not inspirational talk about bagels, and I don't need that negativity in my environment.
I didn't mean to be negative. I love bagels. Bagel talk.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I think, personally, my creative inspiration, like, largely, I have to blame this probably at least 90% or more on somebody who probably is going to make you guys cringe to hear now, considering some of the new stuff he makes, but it's really focused on Ed Sheeran, because it was following a bunch of failed band experiments where I know a lot of you probably have been in bands when you were in high school or middle school where people were not committed at all.
Wow, just like you.
Did not have any didn't have any desire to the people in the band didn't have any desire to commit to it and to actually spend time practicing. They would show up late to practice, miss practices, prioritize other things. And it got to a point where the drama and the pretty much the lack of enthusiasm and care drove those bands apart for, I don't know, it must have been like 3 or 4 bands that I was in that happened. And that was just so demoralizing as somebody who really wanted to be involved in the music industry like that. So I went to a lone Ed Sheeran concert with my girlfriend at the time, and it just blew me away, the things that he could do on his own. Like, it was just him on the stage with nobody else, just him, a guitar and a loop pedal. And the things he did just blew me away to a point where I just got inspired. I'm like, I'm going to write my own stuff now. I'm going to do this all on my own because I know how to play pretty much every instrument that you would find in a traditional band. So I'm like, why not do it? And I think that is such an inspirational story, that he's able to come from such a destitute background and make it so huge in the industry. He's one of the most popular people in the entire world at this point. And he was able to do that pretty much just on his own, with his own skill and talent and a couple people noticing him, being in the right place at the right time. And that's really what inspired me to like make a YouTube channel, write music, do all of that, because I was like, if he can do it, then why can't I? Like, it's just, I think it's a pretty inspirational story. Now, it's unfortunate where he's gone with his current music. I think there's a feature on every single song he does, and a lot of it's extremely pop and kind of just boring. But, you know, that creativity he had in his first couple albums, I think, still was something that just inspired me to pursue all the stuff that I did, and I got to thank him for that.
Yeah. Is it weird for me to say that you were also one of the inspirations of mine when I went into the entertainment industry?
Aww.
Like, real talk, I always remembered, you know, when we were kids and you and the boys were always in the music room and you were always just making music together. And it was so cool for me, even though I didn't play any useful instruments. But it was always cool for me that from such a young age, you were already so talented. And then, so it was kind of like a mutual thing where it was like, I was really inspired by you, but I also like really believed in you. Like, I always thought that you could do more because you had so much potential and talent. So then I was super stoked when you made your YouTube channel. And I was like, finally, he's doing something with his talents. And then your channel blew up and I was like, well, whoop-de-doo, look at that. There he goes. And
thanks for believing in me.
Of course, I have believed in you from day one, and I'll be at your deathbed believing in you there too.
Just so everyone's aware, we grew up next door to each other.
We did,
and
yes.
Unfortunately, we live extremely far away now, and we are cousins.
We're only 4 hours apart now, but when I moved,
it was a distance of the entire East Coast for a while.
Yeah, you lived in New England, and I guess we both lived in New England, and then I moved to Florida. So that, I mean, we had a solid 7-year period where we did not see each other, like, at all.
Pretty much, yeah. And we didn't talk because
we didn't talk.
We were too young to have cell phones at the time, pretty much.
Yeah, we definitely were too young to have cell phones. We moved when I was like 5.
Yeah.
But we were too young for cell phones, but then also, like, we didn't have anything in common really at the time. We didn't start developing similar hobbies until I was probably 12, maybe. And then that was when we went to go visit Connecticut again. And you were playing Halo. And you got me into Halo. And now we're both into Halo.
Right.
But then even then, I don't think we really didn't start really connecting until I think you were 17. We must have been when you came to Florida. We would have been 15 and 17.
We went to Universal.
Yeah, because that was for Christmas.
Yep. And then we reconvened, and it turned out that we, like, despite living so far apart and living very different lives, like, we just shared a lot of things in common, and we just got together, like, just went together so well. It was just a wholesome experience, huh?
Very wholesome. Much wholesome.
Well, I also find your story pretty inspirational because you've had a lot of big hopes and dreams in your life. And I think that you have pursued them harder than I think most people would have. You just you go for it. You go to you're like, you know what? Going to this college is going to be extremely grueling because it's a ton of money. It's a ton of effort, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to because this is what I want to do. And you just set your mind to it and you went for it, and you're doing it now. And soon you're going to be moving out to California to really pursue it even more. And I'm just that's really impressive.
Yeah, it's really crazy for me to think that I'm only a few short months away from moving to LA. It blows my mind.
Yeah, and everything's there. You're gonna just flourish there.
My apartment is 12 minutes from Marvel Studios, and I didn't even know that. I did not know, because I knew my apartment was an hour away from everything. And then I met an actor who came in to give a lecture to my class, and I was asking him about LA, and he was like, well, the good thing about Hermosa Beach is that you're right next to Marvel Studios, but you're really far from everything else. So he was like, that works if you want to be a Marvel actor. And I was like, well, that's funny because that's my biggest dream. But I mean, I've always described myself as a work juggernaut. I never stop working. I do kind of work myself into the ground, and that's why I know how to deal with burnouts, because I work so hard all the time. And there's some days where I wake up and I'm like, I could not be bothered to go pick up a sword and go spar for 2.5 hours, but I knew that I needed to. And eventually, I'll take a nap. Eventually, I'll sleep. But it's very, very difficult what I do. But it's something I've just been so passionate about, and I don't know how to not work.
It's definitely something I've noticed from observing you from afar. So the last thing that I wanted to ask you was, what is your favorite creative outlet? Now, you mentioned that acting, action and dramatic acting was your favorite. So I'll say outside of that, what is your favorite thing to do that's creative?
I think my favorite thing to do, in the entertainment industry, I really, really enjoy modeling. I think it's really fun, and I'm good at it, which is always reassuring. It's always more fun when you're good at it. But I honestly hardly consider it much in entertainment because it's not as much work. Most of the work that goes into modeling is all of the physical fitness. I was gonna say it's preparation more than it's all preparation.
Thing, right?
It's I am not allowed to eat more than 1,200 calories a day. I work out for, was that Bubba? Did I just hear Bubba on your mic? I can't eat more than 1,200 calories a day. I have to work out. Usually I shoot for 4 days a week. I'm always just we have to weigh myself every day, and it's that's kind of the hard part about it. But actually being in front of the cameras, knowing how to work your face, it's a very, very subtle thing that takes a lot of work. I started modeling when I was 15, and so it's something that you get used to, but I still don't consider it on the same caliber as acting. It's by all means, modeling is hard. Modeling is not as easy as people think it is, but the same goes for acting. A lot of people don't understand how difficult the industry actually is. Acting is really, really freaking hard. You have to be so aware of your own body and your habits and your breathing and everything. You have to be so aware of it that you can drop all of it to pick up the habits of another person. And you have to become another person, and you have to convince people that you are another person. And you have to do that while knowing that the camera can read your mind. So if you don't fully believe this character, then the audience isn't going to pick it up either. And so acting is very, very difficult, but it's so much fun. And I think within acting, my favorite creative avenue within it is probably combat. I have so much fun performing it. It's so hard to learn. It's not fun to learn, and it's very difficult, and it's exhausting. I put on 10 pounds of muscle mass within the 10 weeks that I was doing my Combat 2 training. And because the swords are heavy. But every day was so difficult, but when you're actually performing it, it's so much fun. And when you know you're doing it right, and it's just this fluidity and this movement, it's like a dance. And so I found that to be probably my favorite thing that I can do within my industry.
Well, that sounds like something that would be extremely rewarding. So
Very
I think part
rewarding.
of the difficulty that comes with acting is just the sheer amount of competition, because there are so many people that want to act. It has to
for
be
sure.
one of the most hotly contested industries, you would think, right?
Yeah, definitely, because especially for me as a 5'8", blonde hair, blue-eyed, generally pretty girl, like, there are thousands of me. I am unique in my own ways, and I'm special in my own ways, but as far as tall, blonde girls, there are a plethora. And if you're not fully passionate about the project that you're going out for, they're gonna find one of the blonde hair girls who is. You know, it's very, very difficult.
You have to find a way to stand out. Yeah, it's got to be really challenging.
Yeah, and that's why, like, the only way you can really stand out is through hard work and passion. You have to just really, really believe in yourself. You have to learn how to be confident and how to carry yourself so that you can walk into an audition and you can show them that, you know, you're the one who deserves the part amongst the sea of tall blondes.
Yeah, it sounds like a real struggle. And you sound like you're still managing to pull through somehow, which is really, really impressive, like I said, considering the amount of people you're competing against. And I think for me personally, my favorite personal creative avenue, I honestly enjoy pretty much everything I do. The things that stand out, I would say, is when you finish a song that you really think is good, and you just listen back to it for the first time as a completed work. When you take it out, because what you really need to do as a creative person writing music is you got to listen to it in different contexts and different speakers in different areas to make sure things are balanced, right? So what that includes is sometimes maybe going out on a drive and listening in the car speakers. So maybe like that first drive, listening to a new song that you've just written, listening back to it and hearing everything come together in the way you envisioned it, that's probably like the best high that I can get as somebody who makes things. But something that, like, and I don't want this to come across as shallow, but seeing people, you know, really receive something well that you've done is...
I mean, I don't think that comes off as shallow at all. I mean, you've been working so hard on this song. Like, why wouldn't you want people to like it? It's funny for me to hear this, though, because every time one of your songs comes on, you're always like, please change it. You're like, I do not want to listen to this. But I'm sure you've heard them so many times by that point.
Well, it's because I know all the imperfections in the song. And when I play it in front of other people, I'm just thinking, oh, this part's wrong. This part's bad. This thing sucks. But when I get to hear it on my own, I don't have to worry about like other people's opinions. I just get to like hear it for myself. And I usually am proud of what I've done because I know what my shortcomings are. And I know the things that aren't going to be perfect. I know my voice isn't the best voice. I know my production isn't perfect. I know I have fake drums. But like, all those things like aside, I think that what I did was still like somewhat impressive. But like when I say someone receiving it well, it's not just songs either. Sometimes it's my videos. Like when that video we made with me, you, and Daniel just blew up for me anyways. It got, I think it's at 40,000 views now or something. And for my videos nowadays, like that's quite a lot. It was also a longer video. It got a lot of watch time and a lot of interaction. And people really loved it. And I thought it was my best video like overall that I've ever made. I was so proud of that, and like watching it for the first time, seeing the views come in and seeing the likes come in, see people's positive comments come in, it just like was so rewarding. Where sometimes like you'll put a lot of time into something nobody really watches it in comparison. Like you maybe get like 700 views, but like this thing, like we were all on the same page. I liked it, the viewers liked it, and everyone involved like had a fun time making it. It was like one of those perfect storm moments where everything just came together. And I think that's like one of the pinnacles of creation as well, is when like everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, it's a community, it's a connection. I mean, yeah. I definitely understand that. I mean, for one thing, that video of yours is hilarious and absolutely iconic. And I watched it again the other day just because he's such a goof, Danny. He's
so just funny.
He's just on his own little planet, and like, you know, love him to death. But
he's on Planet Daniel.
He is on Planet Daniel. But like, I mean, even mine had a lot of like, it was good with interactivity. I mean, it's got maybe like 1,000 views or something. But like, let me look. It's got 1,175, which is not a lot. But it has
everything's relative. I mean, if you got that when you were first making your channel, you would be like blown away at how insane the view count was. It's just as you grow, then like everything relatively shifts and your scope of a success story just changes, which is unfortunate because I think that like that video is really good and I really enjoy it too.
Yeah, I just have a little baby channel with not a lot of people that watch me. But well, I mean, it's like the video that I uploaded like a week ago is coming in at 463 views. Oh, here comes the rain. It's raining now.
It's raining men.
But I know the feeling where it's like, you know, when you work really hard on a video, you want people to like it. You want people to watch it. And it's like the vlog that I did of Shaky Beats, where it's like I put in so much effort into that freaking vlog, and I was like, oh, you're in it, Scott's in it, it's gonna be great, and it's got like 200 views, and I'm like, okay, so I guess nobody cares about my personal life. It's very demoralizing. It's hard to like not let it get you down.
The thing is, it's like people see it and they probably think, oh, it's just gonna be some like really generic, boring vlog, but like there are so many amazing visuals in that vlog. There's a lot of funny moments. The editing is well done. There's so much quality that goes into that, but because the title is something people wouldn't necessarily typically be interested in, they just skip it. And it's something that I do too. I mean, all of us do it. We're subscribed to people and we see something that somebody probably put hours and hours of work in that might be made just for us, but because the title doesn't sound like something that's like catered to us specifically, we just skip over it, don't watch it, and really like it's gotta suck for the creator that just put so much time into it, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I don't even know what I would have named the video though, because for me, I think I called it like I finally saw Zed, and it's like this was my first time seeing Zed, who at the time was my favorite DJ and had been one of my favorite artists, if not my favorite artist, since high school. And because this was before he got super boring.
The problem is your fans were all K-pop fans.
I know. I have a lot of K-pop. I have a lot of K-pop fans and K-rock fans and Muse fans, and like so I guess like rock fans. So I don't have any EDM fans. So, which is difficult emotionally for me because EDM is the genre I'm really passionate about, but I just don't have the market for it.
Speaking of EDM, I did want to potentially have you and Scott back on at some point to talk about EDM quite a bit, because I think that's something that a lot of people, even though a lot of my viewers are not specifically into that, I think that's an interesting topic, hearing about festivals and some of the behind the scenes stuff, because Scott works on DJing and you have connections in the industry. So I thought that would be an interesting topic for another time as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I could talk for hours just about it, you know, like being friends with San Holo and like how I've been able to see kind of that industry and like what it's like, and for somebody like him who has stayed true to himself throughout it when a lot of people just get sold out, or the emotional toll, or the fame gets to their head. There's so many things that can go wrong, but the EDM industry is actually just so fun. It's fascinating, and there's so many subgenres, and like the festival life. Like I'm going to a festival this weekend, and I'm super stoked for it. But it's like I thought about vlogging it, but I was like, man, I just don't have the viewers. I don't want to put effort into a vlog again. I really hope my mic's not picking up the torrential downpour and lightning and thunder.
I'll just add some ambience. Don't worry about it.
ASMR with royal nights.
Storms.
With storms. It's really bad outside. It's raining cats and dogs.
We're getting pretty close to wrapping up anyways, which is pretty good. Good timing, I guess. I guess, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave the squad with?
Final thought, Bagel Talks 2019.
We need bagel segment.
Bagel segment in every episode.
And my final comment is that I would like to know what you guys think and thought of this podcast, if you made it all the way to the end. We dabbled with the idea of having a visual component, but decided against it because of a few reasons. But if you guys are adamant about it, then we can in the future look forward to having maybe some cameras involved. And if not, if you guys just enjoy listening along while you're doing some chores or driving in the car or something, that's fine with me too. Let me know what you thought of it all down below. I'm going to make a catchy jingle for this at some point, so I'll have that out before this episode comes out. So then that'll all work nicely.
My mic is definitely picking up the light. I'm watching the sound, and I'm like, yep, it's picking up the thunders.
Yep, there it be.
Yep, it's crackling.
Let the sound of my voice
it has forced us to end. As you drive in your car, be soothed.
What's the Parks and Rec radio? Is it Thoughts for Your Thoughts?
Thoughts for Your Thoughts with your host.
We'll have to ASMR us out of here, okay?
ASMR.
And thank you guys for watching. And we have Thoughts for Your Thoughts. This is Nightwalk and Royal Blue.
Thank you for having me. I'm very flattered.
We are sending you out. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Goodbye.